Recording in progress.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Rio Dell City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garnes?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter?
Here.
Councilmember Orr?
Here.
Councilmember Wilson?
Here.
Councilmember Woodall?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public presentations. This is the time for persons who wish to address the council on matters not on this agenda and over which the council has jurisdiction. As such, a dialogue with the council or staff is not allowed under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Items requiring council actions not listed on this agenda may be placed on the next regular agenda for consideration if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that the item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Anyone out there in the vast public? Are there any hands raised? Any emails? No. Okay, then we will close this section and move to the consent calendar. Is there anyone who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Then I would call for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Staff reports, staff communications, city manager, page 28 in our packets.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council, staff. First of all, I just want to mention yesterday, I believe it was around 5 o'clock, we did have a fire at the infiltration gallery.
It's about 4 p.m.
Or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So there was no damage to infrastructure, so there's no damage to the water system, still is operating, but it was caused apparently by some juveniles with fireworks, if I'm correct on that, Randy. And
That's what I heard with my own ears. Yeah.
So again, we just want to encourage parents to, really educate their kids about the proper use of fireworks, and particularly brushy areas and without adult supervision. Very important, because the fire potentially could have been worse at a different year during a drought or something along those lines. But we do appreciate the Rio Dell Volunteer Fire Department for getting out there and extinguishing the flame in relatively short order. So thank you. So I don't have a whole lot to report on this agenda's staff update. I will say we do have an agenda item later to discuss the former Todd property here in Rio Dell. That staff is having multiple meetings with our city engineer on the various projects coming forward with the city. And we are also working on a new grant application through the housing mitigation grants through FEMA for one of the city council's longtime priority projects, which is solar down at the city's corporation yard. And we're very excited about that potential. It could be a unique project. They have been responding to us and helping us to make the grant as competitive as possible through the process. So we really appreciate FEMA's help with that application. And then hopefully at our next council meeting, I can provide an update regarding our Monument Road slip out on in the 2017 winter storms. We had a slip out on Monument Road at the boundary of the city and the county. So the city and the county are cost sharing in this particular project, and our bids have come back pretty good. But now FEMA's holding up the final approval, and the contractor is only verbally holding their bid currently. So it may have to go out to rebid if FEMA doesn't respond soon. But we are working with Congressman Huffman's office on that particular issue. And then just one other kind of just fun note, some of the new vehicle graphics for the police department are rolling out. I think the community services officer's vehicle has the basic new design. So if you see that in the parking lot, check it out. They will be rolling that out over the next few months to the other vehicles. So kind of exciting news. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. Mayor Pro Tem?
I have no questions. Thank you, and thank you for thanking the fire department and the police department, because everybody was there right away. Yeah. That's it.
So, Councilmember Orr?
No questions from me.
Councilmember Woodall?
Yeah, Travis, I just have a question on your page here. It says schedule the logistics with Castle Tire for the tire drop off event. Do we know when that's going to be in?
Yeah, it's going to be on Saturday, August 19th. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Clean California through Caltrans is going to be advertising this on behalf of the city. I'm sure we actually just executed that agreement earlier today, so we'll be getting the word out on that. But Castle Tire is the company who will be providing the 2 trailers where the tires will be received.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Chief, I was just going to say, I saw the graphics. They look really nice. Who designed them?
Place out of Seattle.
They look nice. I like the colors. That's it.
Councilmember Wilson?
I have no questions.
Okay, are there any hands raised? Any emails? Anyone in the public? Audience there? Okay, then we will close item. Special call items. Conduct public hearing and approve the list of delinquent sewer accounts to send to the auditor controller for placement on the tax roll. Page 33 in our packets. City Manager?
I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Travis here.
Good evening, Mayor Garnes and members of the City Council. On July 6, 2023, the Reedale City Council adopted Ordinance 399-2023 to allow the city to send delinquent sewer charges to the auditor controller and add them to the tax roll as a lien. The city is required to follow protocol for Health and Safety Code 5473, including holding a public hearing. During this hearing, the city must hear and consider all objections or protests to the written report referred to in the notice. If the city finds the protest is made by the owners of a majority of the separate parcels of property described in the report, then the report shall not be adopted and the charges shall be collected separately from the tax roll and shall not constitute a lien against any parcel of land. Upon conclusion of this hearing, the city may adopt, revise, change, reduce, or modify, and charge or overrule any or all objections and shall make its determination upon each charge as described in the written report, which determination shall be final. On or before August 10th of each year, following the final determination, the clerk shall file with the county auditor controller a copy of the report pursuant to section 5473. It is staff recommendation to open the public hearing, receive public input, and deliberate. Furthermore, staff recommends approving the final list of delinquent sewer accounts to send to the auditor controller for placement on the tax roll. Thank you for your time this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Finance Director Sanborn. Councilmember Woodall? No. Councilmember Wilson?
No.
Councilmember Orr? No. Mayor Pro Tem? No questions. And I have no questions. Are there any members of the public who have any questions or protests? Are there any emails or hands raised for comments or protests? Then are there any discussions, further discussions that we had last week? No. Okay, then I will, close the public hearing and, ask if there is a motion to approve the final list of the delinquent sewer accounts to send to the auditor controller for placement on the tax rolls. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. Received staff update on the status of former Todd property, now owned by the state of California. Page 41 in our packet, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Dorrance, members of the council. So, for folks who are just not aware of what the Todd property is, that is just a common nomenclature that's used for the property. It is the large, roughly 18-acre parcel undeveloped on the southwest corner of US 101 and Davis Street. It's a kind of direct smack center of the city of Rio Dell. So that property is undeveloped. Formerly, it was a pasture with one small ranch house and barn adjacent to it. It's actually composed of two parcels, which are listed in the numbers are listed on the agenda. If folks are curious in the exact parcel configuration there. Historically, the city has been interested in seeing the Todd property developed, as most cities are interested in seeing development of particularly poor, undeveloped parcels. This stretches back many decades and different attempts and different approaches in terms of development. Including recently, however, the Todd property did sell on April 27th, 2023 for $1,820,000, and the buyer was the state of California. So the property is now under the control of the California Department of General Services, or DGS for short. That's sort of the umbrella organization that handles a lot of the common internal issues between state departments, including real estate, for the state of California. The property, what looks to be the future home, the property is proposed to be the future home of the Humboldt Del Norte CAL FIRE regional headquarters. So the current location for CAL FIRE headquarters is in Fortuna, kind of centrally located off of North Fortuna Boulevard there in town. So we do know a couple of things. CAL FIRE, has been interested in at least two different locations, potentially three different locations, either within the city of Fortuna or immediately adjacent to the city of Fortuna. And we know that one of which was highly preferred by the local headquarters. However, for reasons that are still not entirely clear, the state eventually moved forward with the Rio Dell location. So some of the parcels that they were looking for were equal size, and some of them were on the 10-acre size scale. To date, staff has had 2 meetings with representatives of the Humboldt Del Norte unit, and what has been conveyed to us is that CAL FIRE intends to use the full 18 acres, that they're beginning a design process that's likely to last about 2 years, and occupancy of the site after design and construction could be as early as 2028. Or 2030 is probably a little bit more of a realistic timeline for that site to be fully developed and then ready to be occupied. So, according to local representatives of CAL FIRE, the agency is looking at the next 100 years of expansion, and that what we can infer from that is that this probably does not necessarily mean that all 18 acres will be developed by 2030. But will be set aside for potential development or potentially 100 years from now in the year 21, 23. So that is what the local CAL FIRE representatives have indicated, which is that their staffing has expanded significantly, that their role is increasing, not decreasing, for obvious reasons. And they have also indicated to us potential co-location with the United States Forest Service, which is currently headquartered in Eureka. However, it's unlikely that the whole headquarters would be moved, but in Rio is potentially certain components could be moved there. So, so why should this be a concern to the Rio community? I will get to that, but I want to first point out that there are several benefits potentially to CAL FIRE coming to Rio. One is CAL FIRE is a significant employer. And the top property has always needed, and what the city's always desired out of the location is some sort of anchor, not just for the site itself, but for the community itself. So different ideas have been tossed around, some of them pretty fantasy oriented, like a Home Depot or a water park or something along those lines. But certainly a CAL FIRE regional headquarters would be a icon and an identifiable central hub to the communities. We would turn Rio Dell into almost the CAL FIRE community. That would be in the broader scheme of Humboldt County and the region. When people think of Rio Dell and they go, what's there? You know, some people might refer to the old mini golf, you know, so on and so forth. In this case, it would be CAL FIRE. So it would have a positive connotation that certainly the community, I think, would embrace and be very receptive to. It's a positive home of the heroes type arrangement that would be positive. In addition to which, there would be obviously a lot of employees on site who would, you know, want access to lunch services, so on and so forth, be interested in potentially moving to the town for a shorter commute or to the general area. So there are several great things about this development. There are some concerns here, as there would be with any type of development. So under the current course, the site would not be available for housing or any kind of commercial type development, which creates a literal hole in the city's general plan, which potentially impacts the city's regional housing needs allocation compliance. In the current general plan, 100 housing units are identified as potentially being developable at the site. So RENA is important because it's this guideline and rule from the state saying how we meet the housing targets that are the statewide priority. And so right now, with the Danco project having come online about 3 or 4 years ago, Rio Dell actually pretty much meets all of its RENA allocations, meaning we don't have any problem with the state or meeting the state's housing goals. If anything, the city is short on what is considered upper income housing. That's where we don't necessarily have the biggest problem in terms of RENA compliance. But obviously 100 units is 100 units. We're a pretty significant dent into that. That potentially impacts future transportation funding, because always implicit in the city's RENA allocation is a threat that if we don't meet RENA allocation numbers, that the state can sanction transportation dollars as a result. And of course, they're in a much broader battle with other very wealthy Southern California cities over development, but it still has that potential impact here in Rio Dell. Also attached to your packet is an RFQ, so request for qualifications for essentially project management and development services from Department of General Services. And that starts on page 42 of your packet. And really the most important part is right on the top of that first page on page 42, discussing the project description, which indicates some of the concerns that staff has looking at this is its own independent water system, its own independent leach field system. We don't really see anything here that says integrate with the community in any way. So one of the concerns we have is just the island effect, kind of taking this parcel, cutting off connectivity, the potential for connectivity between neighborhoods, and placing this large block under restricted use. It takes prime real estate for commercial and housing development, turns it over to the state. The state largely gets to bypass any local regulations, any local permitting processes, any method for the city to try to mitigate and integrate the design and the process to the city. So we can force them to consider certain impacts, and certainly through an EIR, they would have to take a look at that. But largely the city is, the city has to comply with state law. The state does not have to comply with its own laws. So hence the disparity between housing being the number one priority here and then 100 units being taken out of potential development down the road. And we're talking about development that could have occurred in 5 years or 100 years. It still will be taken off the table entirely. We've also, in doing some research, looked and discovered that really comparable facilities, headquarters facilities throughout the state of California are sited on 5 to 7 acre plots. So 18 acres is quite a large piece of land for a facility that currently sits on about 3 acres in Fortuna right now. We know it's undersized, they need more space, certainly. But again, this is not necessarily the highest and best use of the land. And it also potentially puts it into a situation where surplus land in the state of California, the government is now looking at state-owned surplus land and turning that over to low-income housing developments. Again, with it being state-owned, no real local control, no real guidance. And that could happen as a part of this plan, or that could happen 10 years from now, or so on and so forth, depending on where the priorities of the state move. And obviously housing is something that is going to take decades to solve, really. So, moving, the other implication here is, and I know that the council knows all about this, and we've been working on this and identifying it as a major problem, but a thriving commercial core is really the lifeblood of any city. So the ability to have residents, visitors be able to stay in a hotel, gas stations, commerce is really what funds a city operation. Under the way that the state of California works and the way that revenues work, it's really important for there to be a thriving business center. So this essentially takes 18 acres of prime green property completely out of the economic equation for Rio Dell. And even if all the CEQA rules and everything were to apply, CEQA doesn't cover the financial impact of proposed developments. We know that the cost to support the police department continues to go up year after year. We know that that the city has to do something regarding economic developments. The council's identified the economic development plan, and the top property was really one of the central components of that economic development plan. So in the long term, this is potentially certainly there would be some benefit to it. The reality is that we believe, the staff believes, and I know that the members of the community that I've talked to and council members that I've talked to have all said that there's got to be a way to meet everybody's needs with 18 acres. It's such a huge space that CAL FIRE can get everything that it wants, and that some of it can be split for commercial and housing development in the future, and that would make a better end product that integrates with the community, that provides additional economic activity in the community, long-term sustainable development, housing, and all of that. And so that is what we have been trying with the state, with the representatives from CAL FIRE, with our local legislative leaders, to try to impress upon them that, you know, there is a third way of doing this, and that is going to meet what everybody wants, including the governor, who's stated time and again that housing is the #1 priority. And so, you know, that is right now, you know, just staff's take on that. And we certainly want to hear back from the council in terms of where you would like to see us go, either back off on this or, you know, continue investigating. But right now what staff is proposing to do would be to continue to monitor and expand the monitoring of this proposal, including reaching out to the Housing and Community Development Department, the state architect, state lands and public works commissions, in addition to legislative outreach. So we've already been engaging, for example, Senator Mike McGuire on this issue. We intend to kind of add to that advocacy. We also need to start identifying potential impacts of this development, and also just making the broader public aware of the proposal to help identify those impacts, because this would be abutting a neighborhood. This would be potential traffic impacts, you know, potential radio communications tower. There's drainage impacts. There's interfacing with the water and wastewater system, if in fact that's going to happen. So there's a lot to look at here. And unfortunately, investigating those, it comes really at the cost of the city to identify those and you know, suss out what needs to be done to better integrate the project to the community. So, so with that, I will return it to the council, and again, I'm just looking for general direction from the council as to, you know, what individually you'd like to see, and as a group you'd like to see. And again, I remind the council that you know, we can drop the issue and not further investigate, and not continue to try to provide updates, and then all the way ramped up to further discussion. Obviously, anything that would go to a closed session, we don't want to discuss here in the open session, but this is our opportunity to kind of discuss this in the open session.
Thank you. Councilmember Orr?
I absolutely think we should pursue questioning and investigating. And like you said, that's a huge chunk of what could be added to new business in the area. I mean, we're limited on the downtown and on the main street. There's little space that we could use, but especially freeway front space. So, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson?
I agree with Councilmember Orr. I'd like to see it pursue what you can. I don't think, I don't want to see you throw our hands like other agencies have done other places. It is disappointing with like, I think you made a comment about the state require everyone else to apply by the rules, but they don't have to apply by it. And so, is what it is. But I do encourage that, you would do that. The other question is, when they say they're independent water system, are they looking to draw water out of the river, or are they looking to just take our water system and put it into a closed loop like Disneyland or something, that they use their own water system? What is that?
So according to the RFQ, it would be essentially development of a well at the site. And I will tell you that we just had a conversation, we had a meeting with the city engineer on an unrelated subject, and we brought this up, and he said that was highly unlikely to produce any real results, just based on the groundwater, how it, the composition of the ground just below the surface, that there's mostly a sheeting effect across much of town that goes directly into the river. There is a fairly high water table, but just below that is essentially chalk or something that's impermeable. So you have to drill either super deep or you're likely not to hit something. And just as a side note, we have had a developer who drilled, I believe, a 600-foot well on the Dinsmore Plateau, spent that money, and came up with absolutely nothing. So while Rio Dell there's no shortage of water in the immediate area, and there's certain places where water is plentiful, just sinking a well center in town is not going to be sufficient for a facility of that size. So, and if it is, if they happen to get lucky, it's going to be more on a kind of residential size to meet their needs. And I don't think it's cost effective for them to do anything other than to connect to the city's water system. But we'll see what exactly they come up with over the next couple of years.
Right, well, for the short term, businesses that thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would say keep investigating and pursuing. I mean, what does it seem like when you talk to the local representatives? Like, you don't have to answer that. That's a weird question, but that's the question that's in my brain. It's like, where is this going and what is the vibe? But
yeah, well, first of all, our local representatives are great. They're fantastic people.
Yeah.
They're really heroes in the community and have done a lot of really great things. But in an agency the size of CAL FIRE, I think these decisions are being made at the very top level. And that involves a state bureaucratic process that involves DGS, which is a whole other animal that mostly serves internally the state apparatuses, very much not a public interfacing agency. DGS, not CAL FIRE, DGS. So,
wow. Okay, well, tell them it's haunted or infested by sandworms. Thank you. Your cat quality probably is haunted by that. I would agree with the previous two commenters too. Just do what you can and keep letting us know. I'm very curious. And sandworms. Thank you.
Councilmember Woodall? Yeah, same here, pursue all the avenues, and like my grandmother used to say, squeaky wheels get the grease. So just keep at it. Okay, so I think we're all in agreement. Are there any public comments?
I just have a question. When is the next time that the RENA numbers are coming out that we would have to report that we no longer have those 100 slots? When would that hit?
So I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I do know that the state is that there is a process underway to recalculate the RENA numbers, in which case most likely they would only become larger and not Smallwood. So on top of this portion being taken out, there is going to be a new reformulation that probably increases the requirement on top of that.
Anyone else? No? Any emails or hand raised? And I think you have what we need from us?
Yes.
Next, update from the mayor on the citizens' recognition for earthquake response. So this is back in December, after December 20th and January 1st, when everybody came, to help the city, to help distribute food, to distribute water, to do all of the good things. There were the whole community came out. The whole community tried to do what they could do, and still are trying to do what we can do to help each other. There were 3 young men, however, who went above and beyond what most young men would be doing. They came out on their own without being asked, and they were there every day. A teenager, an 11 and a 10-year-old, I believe, at the time, and so. I really thought that they should be recognized, and one of the most important things in my mind, to keep youth engaged, to keep them, invested in the city. And these 3 kids were totally invested. We need to recognize them. We need to let them know that we see them and that we appreciate them. And what they did was absolutely noticed. And so to that end, I thought, I talked to someone back in January and talked about a resolution, a resolution, I think is where they come in and you recognize them. But I thought, we don't have a big group here to recognize, and youth probably aren't going to be, they'll be happy with a piece of paper, but that piece of paper is going to get lost. And so I thought it would be a nice thing if we did like a Good Citizens Award to these 3 young men, give them a plaque during Wildwood Days when there's an audience where their friends can see them being recognized and appreciated. They can be applauded. The city, as we can be there and show them that we as the city appreciated everything that they did to help. And so to that end, I went to city manager and asked him if that's, something that we could do. He got the city clerk and we had a conversation about it and decided, well, it's probably something we could do. And then I thought, well, but the city council really needs to be on board with this too. And hopefully be able to come to the, I'm thinking, the Sunday of the barbecue, and just show them, we're all there for them like they were there for us. And so that is an update. It's just, if there's any questions or objections to it, then, that needs to be said. But that's all this item is about, is recognizing the youth that stood up for the city of Rio Dell. And I really truly think that by doing this, it's a way that we can let other youth in Rio Dell know that we are paying attention, we do appreciate it, and hopefully engage the youth to become more involved in the city in different activities. And so that's basically what this item was or is. And so if there are any questions, Councilmember Woodall?
No, so are we talking about doing it at the barbecue or maybe at the parade? Put it in the parade?
Well, I hadn't thought about putting them in the parade. I was thinking at the barbecue, because of to get present the flags.
Whatever you do is fine, because you're right, kids need to be, noticed for what they do, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I also think it's a great idea, that the teenager kid was, I saw him day in, day out, every single day for over a month. And he was there early in the morning. he
Till
was
late at night.
there till it closed. I think I brought the kid cookies at one point, and I mean, it just, yeah, they were really, really something. And then there's so many pictures of the little ones handing out waters and stuff. So I really like this idea. If you have any contact information at from the fire department with how to actually, who to talk to make this happen. Yes.
Barbecue.
Or you know more than the fire department
Yeah.
than we do.
Okay.
I only have 2 people, so anyway, we can talk about that.
Okay.
I just keep harassing the same 2 people. Yes, I love this idea. Thank you for coming up with it.
Okay, Councilman Moore?
As a teacher witnessing the degradation of societal cohesion from the youngest members of society, I think anything we can do to honor those that are worried about their community is amazing.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that, you know, it might spark other kids to do something. I don't know. I wouldn't put a lot of faith in that, but when I see people, young people that are doing what they're doing, they certainly want to encourage it, because these are the ones that they turn out to either sit here or become the future fire chief, police chiefs, leaders of the community, if not this community, some other community. And so I don't want to have the memory of, yeah, when there was an earthquake and we did this and the city of Red Hill never did anything to at least say thank you. So definitely want to acknowledge them and give them some recognition. Thank you for the idea.
Sure, thank you. Are there any questions from? Yeah, absolutely.
I would say put them in a parade. If you can, let them ride on a fire truck, right? You know, I think that would be terrific, in addition to giving them something
Right.
on Sunday at the barbecue. Cause that's terrific, and you're right, the kids need the recognition. It's also good to show the community itself, we've got these young people in our community, and they should be celebrated. And I would also encourage following it up. When school goes back into session, hopefully the schools are gonna be addressing with the kids at the beginning, maybe in a group at the auditorium or whatever, the earthquake experiences that everybody went through. And talking to them, and it would be really nice maybe at that point to also recognize the kids. During the summer, they were, you know, recognized from Wildwood, and have the city come with the school, because there really needs to be kind of a holistic approach and addressing this with the kids a little bit at the school. And so that's a really good teaching point, and a little bit, and then you could talk a little bit about what the kids did and things that kids can do at home to, you know, be disaster ready and know where their flashlights are and that kind of thing. But it's a really good teaching opportunity, and I say let them ride on those trucks.
Right, absolutely. I think Carter's I think he's on the volunteer fire department now. He was too young then, but he was waiting for his birthday so he could. Yeah, yeah. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you. Are there any emails?
In response to what you said about taking a holistic approach, I would even say send it up to HCOE and let the Office of Education know that these people, I mean, they may not all go to schools in the area, they may go to different places, but just, I mean, I don't think that's taken it too far at all.
Absolutely. Well, yay. Okay. That doesn't even require anything. That's other than just information and agreement.
Thanks for keeping us in the loop.
Absolutely. And now we will move on to our ordinances and special resolutions. Second reading by title only, and adoption of ordinance number 400, 2023, amending chapter 2.05.010 and 2.10.162 of the Rio Dell Municipal Code, changing the meeting time for the regular city council meetings from 6:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Page 49 in our packets. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council. So at our last city council meeting, we held the first reading of this proposed ordinance. And so the ordinance is very simple, and I will try to keep it short, which is moving the original start time of the Rio Dell City Council meetings from 6:30 to 6 p.m. No other changes. So this was The idea was generated by staff, and looking at some of our other comparative cities and other public meetings. Rio Dell starts its meeting, one of the latest meetings. So moving it to 6 o'clock, we think would be more convenient for the public attending, for members of the council and for staff. And hopefully when we won't have any late meetings, although we haven't had them, super long meetings in quite a while, but they have occurred in the past. So starting a little bit earlier might be beneficial for everybody. So with that, I'll go ahead and return to the council. And our recommendation is to open the hearing, or the second hearing, see if there's any additional comments, and then consider that comment and then move to adopt.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yeah, I see you've already got it in the agenda, but, there's basically coming to fifth is our first meeting, so that, but people walk them and home, that they know without change.
Correct. So any ordinance that is passed by the city council has a 30-day waiting period before it goes into effect. And so the first meeting where we would move the time would be to 6 p.m. Starting time at 6 p.m. would be September 5th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Woodall.
That's fine with me, Rich, September 5th. He was here at 6 o'clock tonight.
Oh, rude.
5:30.
There we go. Okay, are there any questions from the public? Any emails? Keep looking at you, any hands raised, any emails? There. Thank you. And I would ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number 400-2023, amending the Rio Dell Municipal Code 2.05.010 and Code 2.10.160, altering the city council's regular meeting start time from 6:30 to 6 p.m.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0, and after 30 days, September 5th, we will start our city council meetings at 6 o'clock. Council reports and communications. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. we have our Business Advisory Committee meeting here in City Hall. 3 p.m. open to the public if anybody wants to come. Next, Heights for Nonprofits this Friday, July 21st at the Social Lodge from 5 to 8 p.m. They do this every month on the third Friday of the month, where they choose a different nonprofit and proceeds go to benefit that nonprofit. This Friday it is the Rio Nova Scotia Chamber of Commerce. So anybody here, anybody listening, watching, if you want to come on out and have a beer and a cheeseburger or whatever, you will get a really good meal and then also benefit your local community. So come on out for that, 5 to 8 p.m. Lastly, Saturday, July 29th, we are doing a volunteer community cleanup day here along Wildwood Avenue. That will be from 9 to 11 a.m. The meeting point is at the Resource Center. We'll provide gloves, buckets, vests, garbage picker-upper things, and even some coffee and some tea and some baked goods and whatever. So anybody who would like to come spruce the town up right before Wildwood Days and almost pull some weeds and pick up some garbage, that would be Saturday, July 29th, 9 to 11 a.m. I will redecorating Monday. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall.
Do the baked goods come? Your chai.
I'll just for you.
Okay. Yes, okay.
I ordered more of that smoked sugar.
Coffee, free, only one important thing.
I went to a board meeting with the fire department, and the one interesting thing that I thought was I didn't know that they were putting the new bridge in the Shively. So they'll be able to take all the bigger equipment across to fight fires. And that's about it. You covered everything else. All right, you got it.
Thank you, Councilmember Ward.
HCOG meeting on Thursday, more to follow.
All right. Councilmember Wilson?
Yes, we're supposed to have an HWA meeting and some of us went in there and some of us didn't. And it didn't, it was canceled because there wasn't a quorum, so, they were given an update on 1383, which we didn't get, but they probably will in the future. Yeah, that's really, the RCEA next year. But that's all I have. Oh, I wanted to mention again that if anyone's interested in being on the Community Advisory Committee for RCEA, that there's, Rita Dell has an open place for someone to do that. And so they just need to either contact me, contact RCEA, and fill out a form, and then we'll work on getting them approved and all that.
And it's just any community member?
It is any community member can do it. And I don't know if it works on like a council member, one of them will be on a community advisory. One could, I don't know what.
So community member?
You're a community member, so I don't follow that. I say, well, yeah, interested.
And, I have a meeting tomorrow with the long-term recovery group and, Senator McGuire and, city manager. And then on Thursday, I have a seismic safety commission meeting. And, rather than going to Sacramento this time, I had to stay here, it's my foot. So I'll be here, it'll be in the, I mean, they won't be here, but I'll be here in the chamber. And so if anyone wants to come and listen or have, you know, whatever, to the seismic safety commission meeting, that will be, Thursday from 10 to 1:15 p.m. And that's a public meeting, so anyone in the public is welcome to be here too. And I think that is all. When's the Boots to
Boogie, yes. This Friday at the fire hall, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. will be lesson number 1, and then the Friday after that will be lesson number 2. And if we need to review, I'm sure we can sneak one in on August 4th, but it's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And don't forget about the Friday at Scotia Inn. That's a good thing, and they have excellent French fries.
Yes, they do. Yes, they.
I mean, they like really, really excellent French fries. You know, they're right there with Bimbo, the 2 places that have the best French fries in Humboldt. Scotia and Bimbo. So, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
You have a motion, a second.
Yes.
All right, I want to say hi to Nancy Kurtz. Okay. We're gonna adjourn.
Yeah.
And, you know.